We'll start close to home for me. I've talked about how as a Vancouver Whitecaps fan, I sometimes feel like a third wheel in our own rivalry series. In North American soccer, the oldest rivalry in the league is that of the pro teams of the Cascadia region, the northwest of the continent. The Vancouver Whitecaps, the Portland Timbers, and the Seattle Sounders all three have a deep history for North American standards, as well as examples of on-field excellence. Their supporter scenes were sort of ahead of their time for the MLS, and are still among the best in the continent today. However, Portland and Seattle, both being American, sort of made it so a lot more hatred is focused on each other than the Whitecaps, as the Whitecaps are from Canada, therefore needing a border crossing every time they visit. They still dislike the Whitecaps, don't get me wrong, but most fans of Portland and Seattle would probably say that their disdain for each other takes precedent. Vancouver is also unique in this situation because since the 21st century began, they shadow two rivalries. The other is much lower priority for most Whitecaps fans, but considering how often we meet each other in the Voyageurs Cup, aka Canada's cup competition, some bad blood is bound to be felt. The only other Canadian teams in the MLS are Toronto FC and CF Montreal. Now, like in every sport, Montreal and Toronto focus a lot of their disdain for each other, but Vancouver being the third Canadian team sort of made it so that the league itself tried to push Vancouver as a rival to Toronto and Montreal. I personally am pretty indifferent to Toronto and Montreal, but we meet so often in cup competition and league competition that it does get competitive amongst fans at times. And as Canadian soccer has continued to evolve, now having its own league for both men and women, the Whitecaps, TFC, and Montreal will always be intrinsically linked as the three professional outliers in this country, playing in a foreign league, and as pro teams that blaze the trail for Canadian soccer leagues to follow, such as the Canadian Premier League, the Northern Super League, and League One Canada. So long story short, Vancouver has the interesting distinction of being a third wheel in two separate rivalries.